Yeah, being more relaxed and calmer is a side effect of practicing meditation. It's a side effect of practicing meditation. Because when you're practicing meditation, part of the practice is to be more aware of the physical body, to take some time before you actually start the session, to really pay attention to the body and let the shoulders drop and let the weight of the body become dead weight. So if you're keeping your back straight and you let the weight of the body fall into the floor, fall into the chair, you can really let go. And if your back is straight and your body is stacked up, you can really feel that you can let go, and you can find the center of gravity and the center of energy in your body, which is 2 inches below the navel. It's called the Dantian. So you can become aware of this center of energy, and before you actually begin the sit, you can sit there and just see if you can find this center. You'll see in a lot of experienced practitioners, they'll rock like this before they start to sit. What they're doing is they're looking for the center. And if you find the center, right, then you just stop and sink into that center and let the body go. Right? So you don't have to hold the body when you're meditating. You can let the body be natural. Let the body support itself during the time that you're meditating. And then when you're paying attention to the thought activity and you keep moving your attention away from the thought activity, this allows the mind to calm. And the way that works is because you're not involved with the thinking anymore. When you stop being involved with the thinking, the thought activity naturally starts to calm down on its own. It's just like taking a bottle of water. If we had some dirt in the water, right, and we shook the bottle up, it's going to be cloudy and muddy, right? Well, that's the same way your mind is, because you're constantly shaking the thought process up by being involved with it. Right? The thinking activity is constantly moving, constantly going. In the East, sometimes they call this the monkey mind, right? It's all over the place, right? It's all over the place. So we want to try and get this to stabilize and calm down. And the way we do it is we move attention away from it. And when we're not paying attention to it, when we're not thinking, we're not paying attention to it, instead we're paying attention to the breath, the thought activity quiets down by itself because of the fact that we're not engaged with it, we're not involved with it, right? So it'll calm down the same way as the water clears up when you set the water bottle down. So just by doing the practice, your body will learn to relax more, your mind will calm down more, and then what becomes possible is what the practice of meditation is really all about, which is to, when you're free from the constant mental activity, right, which is, for most people, they're living their life through the mental activity. You know, most people are thinking their way through the day, through the week, through the year, through the life. Thinking. Right? And all it does is cause confusion, agitation, depression, fearfulness, right? Because the thought process can't succeed in accomplishing the goal of allowing you to be calm, centered, feeling at home in your life, feeling satisfied, and feeling peaceful. The thought activity cannot accomplish that. You can't think your way into peace. You can't think your way into happiness. And so through practicing meditation and moving attention away from the thinking activity and paying attention to the body breathing, now the thinking activity is not in the way. It's not confusing. It's not determining how you're understanding or perceiving anything. And now you're paying attention to the body breathing. And if you continue to do this practice, eventually over time, especially if you're studying the teachings, you begin to realize when I'm paying attention to the body breathing and there's no thinking in the way, it becomes possible for me to notice something that's very valuable and very important. What's paying attention to the body breathing? What is paying attention to the body breathing? And if you're studying the teachings, you start to realize, oh, it's awareness of the body breathing. It's awareness of the body breathing. And then if you study the teachings, you begin to understand that this awareness is my true nature. This awareness is my natural state. This awareness is who I am. I thought I was who I thought I was. I thought I was the body. I thought I was the personality, and that wasn't working out very well. It left me with a lot of agitation. It left me with a lot of concern, a lot of worries, a lot of instability. And so now the possibility exists for me to discover that, oh, my true nature, my actual natural state is not the thinker of my thoughts. It's not the personality. It's not the physical body. It's the awareness. It's the awareness. Well, that opens up a whole new realm of possibility. If that's the case, if that's what I really am, is the awareness, how does that make everything different? It does make everything different, because if you examine this awareness that becomes more available through the practice of meditation, you can notice that it is very stable. It never changes. It has no form. Has no form. It never changes. It's very stable. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't want anything. It's not going anywhere. It's always just here. Some teachers call it isness. It just is. It's just here. Never changes. Not going anywhere. Has no form. If that's what I really am, then what becomes possible is happiness, because the happiness that's available through experiencing my natural state, through experiencing the awareness that I am, the happiness available, it's available because that awareness is free from being affected by circumstances. That awareness is free from being affected by circumstances. It's like the space in this room. The space in this room is a good metaphor for awareness, because the space in this room, does the space in this room care about what you think? Does the space in this room care what happens in this room? Does the space in this room change depending on what's going on here? No. Does the space in this room change if somebody gets murdered here or somebody has sex here? No, it stays exactly the way it is right now. Right? It's a good metaphor for awareness. Awareness is like space. One of my teachers used to say, upon realizing my true nature, I became the clearing in which my life occurs instead of the circumstances of my life. So this offers a whole new possibility for your life. It offers a possibility where the circumstances of your life stop having the effect on you. You can watch the evening news and not feel crazy. You can watch the evening news and not get upset, because you're the space of what's happening instead of the content of what's happening. You become the context for your life. You know, one of my teachers used to say, context is decisive. Context is decisive. What did he mean by that? He meant the way you're holding what the content is, the way you're holding what's happening determines the experience of it, the way you're holding it, right? The way you're holding it. This is a very powerful statement, you know. And when you discover your true nature, and you discover your true nature as awareness itself, you become the context for your life instead of the content of your life. Instead of being a personality in a physical body living in time, no, you become the space in which your life is occurring. And when you can experience that space consistently, you start to experience the possibility of fulfillment. You start to experience what's available in a human life. One of my teachers said that when you and I are born, when we take our first breath, that's the complete fulfillment of your life right there. Complete fulfillment of your life. Why? Right. Because when you take your first breath, the awareness appears in form. The awareness appears in the physical body, right? And that awareness is always satisfied, peaceful, fulfilled, and happy, right? You look at a baby, right? You look at a baby's face. A baby is not waiting until something happens for it to be happy. In its natural state, it's experienced its existence to be fulfilling. A baby's experience its existence to be fulfilling. And then we teach it to forget about that. Then we teach it to identify with the body, and we teach it that it's a personality. And now you can't just be a baby, you have to be a good baby. You can't just be a baby, you have to be a smart baby. You can't just be a baby, you have to be a baby that can compete with all the other babies and perform. And then you lose the natural state and you start the suffering. You start suffering because now you're competing. You're not okay just the way you are. No, you have to prove yourself, right? You have to perform. You have to make the grade. And this is the suffering that goes on in a human life, constantly trying to be better, constantly trying to be happy, constantly trying to make money, constantly trying to have our relationships work. And if you pay attention, you'll realize it doesn't work. No matter how hard you try, no matter what you do, right, you will be subject to the instability of your own mind. You'll be subject to the instability of your own personality. You'll be subject to the instability of your conditioning. So one of the things that can be said about meditation is it's the answer to the problem. The problem and the predicament that we find ourselves in, which has been called the full catastrophe. The problem that and the predicament we find ourselves in, living in a human body in time, with death approaching, living in a human body in time with death approaching, doing our damnedest every day to be able to relax and enjoy ourselves, right? Instead of continuing to chase that, we can start to relax and calm down and realize what we want has always been available to us every moment of our lives. And so now through the practice of meditation, we can begin to practice being available for the truth. We can begin to practice being available for life and start to experience life as life is instead of life as life should be. Right? The source of human suffering is the idea that things should be different than they are. If you pay attention, you'll notice that when you're suffering, it's because you realize that things as they are unacceptable. That's called dissatisfaction, right? Things as they are unacceptable. Even you, even your body, even the president, right? Even how much money you have, it's unacceptable, right? And so you suffer and you keep striving to change it, get more money, get a face job, try and get a different president elected, try and move to a better country, buy a different house, get a new car, it's a never-ending process, right? So this is an answer to that mess. This is an answer to that unending suffering where you can begin to realize that just by practicing meditation and calming the mind and relaxing the body, you can begin to start to experience what's always available, the natural state. What does it mean? What does the natural state mean? It's the state that's unadulterated. It's the state that's not contaminated. It's the state that's unconditioned. It's a state that hasn't been changed. It's the state the infant's in before the infant gets language and learns to move away from its natural experience. And so now through meditation, you can go back and complete the job, right? You can go back and complete the job. Yes, it was necessary for the baby to learn to function in the world, to get language and to learn how to play the game of life. It was necessary. And so it was inevitable that it would lose its identity in the process, right? But now through meditation, we discover there's a third act. There's a third act. The first act is infancy. The second act is conditioning. The third act is awakening. Awakening to what? The true nature that was the baby, but now it's even better than being the baby because now the baby has learned to be in the world and function and can return to its innocent natural state and experience being happy. That's the third act. Most of humanity doesn't get to the third act. And we don't have a very clear understanding of the process of time. If we did, we would realize we're not far out of the cave, right? Given the reality of time, we're still very early in the evolution of humanity. We're still very early, right? So it may be the case that down the road, when brain science gets more sophisticated, it may become the case that down the road, the third act becomes part of the typical human life.